Nuance with
Good.
Nikki. So we've got something very interesting today. Um, you guys know how there are some South African parents still struggling to get their children into school, and there are many people who aren't happy with whatever's happening in school. Well, we've got a very interesting topic to speak to you guys about today. This is homeschooling. What is it? What does it provide? So today I'm going to be speaking to Sandra Kruger from Sandra's House. Sandra, can you tell us more about yourself and what it is you know about homeschooling?
So I've started a homeschooling center in 2015. Um, Basically, I've started it because I myself didn't enjoy teaching in a mainstream school. I enjoyed teaching the kids who are struggling. And in a mainstream school, you often just can see kids are struggling, but it's very difficult to actually help them while there's 30 other kids in the class. So instead, I started tutoring in for various homeschooling centers and then eventually started my own.
Wow, so
So
your school is
my
10 years old now.
10 years, yes, very proud of the fact that we've been running for 10 years and that, yeah, and in that 10 years, so many things have changed and you need to just be flexible all the time and see what's going on and what is the new climate.
Wait a minute. So in the middle of your last decade, you even had a pandemic. Wow. And you lived through it?
Yes. Yeah, it was difficult. We came to a stage where we almost thought we're going to have to close down. Lots of people, lots of parents were saying, "Oh, you must be doing so well," because everyone needs to do homeschooling now. But the problem is, yes, everyone needs to do homeschooling during COVID, but half the people can't afford it anymore or don't have devices. So we did come to very close to closing down, but we made it through.
So well done for taking initiative and starting your school. So you say that what you were inspired by was the fact that there was too much rigidity in traditional schooling. Can you tell us more about that?
Um, yes, and I think the rigidity is not necessarily something that schools strive for, and that um, let me put it like this: I often think that people criticize mainstream schools and think of it as this, meat grinder or where everyone goes in and has to come out the same. And but I think to a large extent, it's just really difficult when you've got such big classes to actually deal with being flexible and um, you have to be rigid in order to run and manage so many kids at once.
Yes, I think you're
Um,
right. Because schools are
and
little
a lot of
universes in
people,
themselves. Yeah. Sorry.
yes, yes. No, no, I was just going to say, and it's not, um, a lot of people have, and a lot of people doing homeschooling also have this idea that mainstream schools are evil because they want everyone to follow the same thing and they want everyone to be the same. But I don't think it's inherently that's where it comes from. I think it's just easier to manage if you've got so many kids. It's hard to look at the individual when you've got 30, 40 kids in a class.
Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, I think the schools are little universes in and of themselves, and I think teachers, educators,
Yes.
principals do the best they can with what they have. And most of us can't
Yeah.
manage 3 kids, and they're out here managing a
Yes. Yes.
thousand, right? Okay.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah.
So in other words, we're not anti-main school. We're just looking at a different sort of schooling, right? So
Yes. Yes. Yes.
what exactly is homeschooling then, Sandra?
So homeschooling is when the children do their schooling at home with the parents being the primary teachers and being in control of the curriculum and have more say in what the kids learn and how they learn it. Um, but a very interesting thing that's been happening in South Africa, I don't think it is anywhere else in the world, is because mainstream schools are so full, um, a lot of parents opt to do homeschooling, but they can't actually help their kids at home. Or they either don't have the equipment, or like after COVID, a lot of people went to homeschooling, but then the parents have to go back to work. And
Mm.
when you've got the both parents working, but they need an alternative to mainstream school, then they they choose homeschooling, but they don't actually have the time to do
Mm.
it at home themselves.
Mm.
And then tutor centers started popping up where they can actually take their child to have tutoring and still look after some of their curriculum, um, do some teaching at home and some teaching through a tutor. Yeah.
Okay. So, what exactly, for people who've never seen a tutor center or a homeschooling center, what exactly does it look like? Is it this big, massive building where tutors come out of a machine, or how does that work? How's it different from a normal school? That sort of thing.
Most homeschooling centers are very small and runs from a house. Um, so it would be usually it's anywhere between 5 and 50 kids. If you come to 50 kids, and it's like that's huge. But it's usually very small, with a couple of tutors, maybe one or two people running it that's there all day, and then people coming in, like tutors coming and going, as they are needed to help with whatever subjects.
Okay, and then with different age ranges, do they stick to sort of one age range, like maybe one that's just for matrics or something? How does that
It's
work?
usually more primary school. I think also because a lot of high school learners, it's easier for them to actually learn from home. So by themselves rather than actually needing more tutors. But it's usually starts from grade one. And I've often, grade one to grade 7 or grade one to grade 9. Some run all the way from grade 1 to grade 12. But I also find that a lot of parents who do homeschooling with their kids start a little center so that their kids can, have some friends who also comes to join them. And then often people might start the center with a small group of with kids from a certain grade, but and as they get older, they accommodate kids for those grades as well as the kids get older.
So, would you say it's something anyone can do, or what's the logistics?
On the one hand, it is very easy to start a homeschooling center,
Mm.
but it's important that people understand how the law works, how to actually um, deal with kids and know the curriculum. Because some people start it because they think it's very easy, and then they come to a point where they struggle to deal with the kids, or they can't teach the kids efficiently themselves, and then eventually the kids lose out. So it's
Mm.
important when you're starting it to actually have the correct knowledge,
Mm.
and the right skills, both to be able to deal with the children and to know the law and to know the curriculum and to be able to manage everything um, yourself.
Okay, so what does it look like when they're doing it properly? If parents are going to homeschool center, how would they know this is a good one? Perhaps you could speak about your own homeschool center and how that differs. Do you know what I mean? Can you just give us an idea, please?
Yes, yes. So especially with when we're talking about homeschooling, we're also mostly talking about grade 1 to grade 9,
Mm.
because in South Africa, grade 9 is a school leaving year, and then it's
Mm.
FET. So
Okay.
then the FET phases doesn't really count in there.
Okay,
So
so is
the
that further
homeschooling is mostly
education and training? Grade 8 to 12, further
further
education.
education
Gotcha.
and training.
Got you. Okay.
Yes, yes. Um, so it's important. So with grade 1 to grade 9, it's important that the at the person who runs it, or the person who sets the tests, has a teaching degree or is a registered teacher, which is also just one of the legal requirements of doing homeschooling. So at the homeschooling center, um, it is a lot of parents register with a curriculum provider. So there's a couple of institutions that provides the full CAPS curriculum or Cambridge curriculum, and they provide all the tests and tasks and um, memos and everything according to the CAPS curriculum documents, so that the parents know that they are teaching their kids the correct things and that it is CAPS compliant.
Right. Is it only
Um,
caps to get? Sorry, you were saying?
yeah, so specifically CAPS because so CAPS is the South African system, um, but there are also ones that offers Cambridge. So that would be from um, the Cambridge curriculum leading up towards doing IGCSE and AS levels.
Is that from Britain?
Yes, yes, that's the
Okay.
UK system. Yeah,
Okay.
which is also a fantastic system worldwide.
Right. And so caps is what South African public schools use. Am I right about that?
Yes, yes, yes.
Okay. And then are there any others? Do that what like how is this on par with sort of IEB and those kinds of things? If you could just give parents an idea.
So, so IEB is basically stands for the Independent Exam Board. So in South Africa, you basically get Umaluzi. They look at the full, at basically at education and training standards in South Africa. And there's three curriculum boards that is accredited by Umaluzi to actually do grade 12 exams. And that is Sakai, which most homeschooling centers use, and homeschooling curriculum providers. And then there's IEB, the Independent Exam Board, um, and then there's the government. So it's those three exam boards that's allowed to do the grade 12 exams in South Africa. So CAPS is the curriculum policy, which is a document that basically says what the layout of the entire curriculum, but also looking at the weighings of how you set a test and which things may count how many marks, and how many tasks and tests and exams kids need to write during the year. So it basically sets all of those things out.
So like a big
And
measuring stick and a big checklist of everything kids have to do
yes,
per grade. Okay, now I understand. Yeah.
absolutely, yes, yes. Um, and so um, both Sakai, yeah, so Sakai uses the CAPS curriculum, as well as all the government schools.
Mhm.
Some private schools also use the CAPS curriculum. And then the IEB has homeschooling options, but they also a lot of private schools follow the IEB curriculum, but it's also based on the CAPS curriculum.
Okay.
So it's very similar up to certain levels, but they try to, because they're smaller, they try to be more flexible and change things more as the world changes. The curriculum changes.
Gotcha. Okay, Sandra, this is very, very interesting. Thank you. So I just want to clarify. A proper homeschool center, at least until grade 9, needs a qualified teacher or a retired teacher. Would that count too?
Yes,
So,
yes,
am I right in saying that any unemployed teacher right now who's qualified, or any retired teacher or somebody who's uncomfortable with their job, could literally start one in her house if she wanted to?
yes, yes.
And in terms of tutors, do they all necessarily have to be qualified teachers? Or how do we?
No, no, no. A lot of parents specifically want qualified teachers to teach their children, but it's not necessary. Um, I think being able to teach and knowing the content is far more important than having the piece of paper.
Right. So, on the upside, when a child's doing accounting, it might be great to actually have a university accounting student or an actual accountant teach them.
Absolutely.
Right. Just
Yes, yes,
by way of example, I know at your school, for example, you had the CAPS drama curriculum, you had actual actors teaching them, just by way of
yes,
example.
yes.
Okay. So, in
Yeah,
some ways, they
yeah,
can get this very specialized attention too. Right.
yeah. Yes,
Yeah.
definitely, definitely.
I also
Yes,
remember you had like an actual artist teaching the art. Yeah. So, there's also that
yes,
kind of option. So in terms of affordability, how viable is this for our general country? You know, we've got a lot of different class groups and that kind of thing. Yeah.
yes. So with homeschooling, um, if you teach your children at home, it is, and you are actually able to do the work yourself, or to be able to find um, resources online. There is a massive amount of free resources online, especially after COVID, where so parents can build their own thing out of looking at online resources and um, books. You also get free online books with some things, but then the parent actually needs to have the skill to teach the child themselves.
Mm, mm,
You also get online schooling where the the kids log on to their video, school online and do their schooling online.
mhm,
Um, but the problem is, as soon as you start needing to employ people to help you teach your children, it starts becoming more expensive.
mm,
And then, so it great. There's a huge difference between um, different homeschooling centers and different parents teaching their kids at home. Some might spend a lot of money to get a lot of tutors to help their children, whereas others might use free online resources or have the knowledge
mm.
themselves, and then they don't have to spend a lot of
Okay.
money. For the curriculum itself, um, as soon as you get to FET, so grade 10 to 12, you must be enrolled with one of the exam boards in order to get to write the grade 12 exams.
Okay, that's the
And
Kai stuff and the cap stuff that you mentioned earlier. Okay.
yes, and for that you need to pay per subject, and you need to pay the for the homeschooling the provider who gives you all the material that you need, and you also need to pay a fee to Sakai as the exam board
Mm,
to run the exams. And then the prices start becoming a bit more expensive. And then
mm,
affordability becomes a problem for a
mm.
lot of parents.
Okay. Okay. But it does sound like there's a bit of flexibility as well. Let's just say family
Absolutely.
issues. Maybe a child has had, I don't know, I'm just going to, an accident. They
Yes,
can't do
yes,
full on schooling. Could they maybe do half of this grade this year and half of that grade next year, whatever the
yes,
case is?
absolutely. Yes, yes.
Okay. So there's a lot more
For
of
a
a
lot of
Rubik's Cube.
children, yes, and a lot of children with, especially children who struggle with learning disabilities or with, like you said, with accidents or disease, it takes a lot of the pressure off them to actually split a school year in half or do an extra school year, um, so that they can actually focus on getting a solid education rather than just running through it fast to get it over with.
Right. I mean, I've also had the opposite experience. I worked at a homeschool center too, and it's like there was this one child that was just so ridiculously intelligent. Like he was just such a genius. What I used to do is, as I'm sitting with the other 4 or 5 kids, doing, let's say, chapter one, I would literally tell him, dude, why don't you go sit in this classroom where I can see you? You do the next 3 chapters yourself. Because
Yes,
that child would
yes,
actually go crazy, like just with how fast his mind worked, right? And then
yeah,
if you felt like he'd done enough, you'd go, okay, next period, you go ahead and do art. That kind of thing too.
yes,
It's not
yes,
always just problem kids, right? Some kids are very
yes. No,
fast.
no.
Mm,
Yes, yes. So when we started about 10 years ago,
mm,
um, the most of the kids we had in were kids who doesn't fit into mainstream schooling, um, either because they go too fast or because they need more attention.
mm,
So it's barriers to learning that they need more help than a mainstream school can provide, or they get bored and they need to go faster.
mm,
So that was basically, it's like the two opposite ends of the extreme. But as the um, years progressed, we started getting more kids um, who also just like as you're going along, and in the one year you miss things, and especially after COVID, things build and build and build,
right,
and if those
right.
building blocks aren't in place, then eventually you get to an older grade and the walls kind of start crumbling.
Right. I
Um,
remember a lot of children struggled academically because of COVID. They just didn't have a good enough
yes,
foundation in the, 2 or 3 years later.
yes,
Yeah.
yes. And then, so with homeschooling, you can always go back and try to fix that foundation before you go forward again. And
Mhm.
then another group of kids that we also have had a couple of, not it's not as big, but is kids who do professional sports.
Right.
So um, if you are an Olympic swimmer, for example, you need to spend
Right.
a lot of time practicing swimming.
Uh-huh.
And while you are doing your sport, you also need to travel a lot.
Right.
So going to a, brick and mortar school
Uh-huh.
is not actually, you miss too many days.
Uh-huh.
Whereas with homeschooling, you can continue with it online. You can pause a little bit and continue with it a couple of
Mhm.
months later. So
Beyonce
usually
Knowles
with
actually was homeschooled. You know that? She was already a celebrity by her teen years, by 15.
oh,
So she had to be
yes,
homeschooled. Yeah.
yes, yes, yes. So there's
Mm.
and child actors as well.
Yep.
So there's a lot of so yeah, especially online schooling, and things that they can continue with online, helps those kids a lot because then they don't have to be limited to where they are in the world or in South
Mm.
Africa and what time of day they're actually doing their
Okay,
schoolwork.
wow, Sandra, thank you so much. That was so jam packed. Thank you for introducing us to homeschooling. I definitely think we should talk some more. So tell me, for people who might want to contact you, contact Sandra's house, whether or not they'd like to join the homeschool center, see how it works, or look into perhaps training at how to start a homeschool center, how would they contact you?
So the best way to contact me is by email. So my email address is admin@sandrashouse.co.za,
Hmm.
or send me a WhatsApp on 084 236 1000.
Okay.
And I'm
Um,
always enjoy giving people advice. So even if you're um, just a parent who's stuck, needs some uh, support or a shoulder to cry on or someone to rant to, I always enjoy um, talking to
wow.
people and helping out where I
Okay.
can.
That's super kind and generous. Thank you so much. I think the parents would appreciate that. So you're based in Johannesburg, is that correct?
Yes, that's right. Yeah.
Okay. And are you willing to collaborate with people from anywhere in the country in terms of starting
Yes,
something?
absolutely. Yes, yes,
Okay, or at
definitely.
least giving them advice to see, like even if they had a homeschool center and they
Yes,
weren't sure.
yes.
Okay. Okay. What I'll do is I'm going to put your website in the description, a link in the
Yes,
description.
absolutely. Yeah.
And yeah, I hope that people will contact you if they have questions. So, guys, thank you for joining. We're looking into this new thing, maybe a new thing for you called homeschooling. If you already know about it, perhaps more questions. I am going to have another interview with Sandra so that we can learn more and go in deeper. So, please like and
Yes.
subscribe if you guys want to follow for that. And thank you so much. Thanks so much, Sandra.
Thank
Goodbye.
you.
Bye. All right, guys. So you can contact Sandra's House Educare or Sandra Kruger herself at 084 236 1000. She's available over WhatsApp. Alternatively, you can write to admin@sandrashouse.co.za. Her website says, "Welcome to Sandra's House. We offer a distinctive educational setting that caters to tutoring, homeschooling, and self studying for learners. Our flexible approach allows us to accommodate various curricula. We offer lessons in both English and Afrikaans." So let's just look at the different things she offers. For homeschooling, we offer guidance, instruction, and training for students who follow distance learning and online programs. In tutoring, we offer CAPS extra lessons at our premises after school from 2 to 5. So even if your child's not in homeschooling, they can get tutoring there. FAQs, find out everything you need to know about homeschooling curricula, essay law in our FAQ section, grade info. Discover how we organize the different classes from grade 4 to 12 and what a typical day is like for each student. You can check out their articles if you're not sure about homeschooling yet, and you can contact them to arrange lessons for your child. Of course, as Sandra said, she's more than willing to offer help and guidance and assistance to anybody. Just give her patience to get back to you when you WhatsApp her. If you've been inspired to start your own homeschool center, if you are a professional teacher, um, if you'd like to be a tutor at a homeschooling center, I'm sure that she can offer you some kind of guidance and support. Thank you for joining. This has been Nuance with Nikki.